So, this is how we do molecular mass. It's also called molar mass. All right. First thing we're going to do is, with that periodic table, have it out, but flip over to your mole flow chart. We're going to fill in this part right now. So, 1 mole, it's always 1 mole in the mole flow chart. 1 mole equals the molecular mass. All right? And you're like, all right, that's not really useful, but I'm going to show you how to find molecular mass in a moment because you use the periodic table for that. All right? So let's flip back to where we were. All right, so it says in number 2, the atomic mass found on the periodic table is the number of grams of that element which equals 1 mole. Again, that's the conversion factor, all right? So, how many grams of carbon equal 1 mole of carbon? So, we would write this as something like 1 mole of carbon equals, and we round this to 2 decimal places, if you can. So, what would we write? Yeah, Jacob?
Equals 12.01 grams.
Yep, 12.01 grams of carbon. Okay? 12.01 grams of carbon. That means if you had 12 grams of carbon and you found it on used a balance and found that, you would have 1 mole of carbon, which means you would have 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd atoms of carbon, right? Because of the mole flow chart and how everything's connected. So now we're getting into real things. All right. Another way to write this, if they ever ask you just kind of like what's the molecular mass of something, how you'd write this would be something like 12.01 grams per mole, because it has these 2 units in it. All right, it's grams per mole, which just means 12.01 grams equals 1 mole. All right, so how many grams of sodium carbonate equals 0.75 moles of sodium carbonate? Now, this one's a little tricky because it's not 1 mole, right? So first thing we have to do is figure out the nomenclature of this. The second thing we have to figure out is then how much it actually weighs when you look on the periodic table, and then we have to do a conversion. All right, so first up, nomenclature. What's sodium carbonate look like?
Na2CO2.
Good, Na2CO2. Na is +1, carbonate is -2. It's carbonate, right? Carbonate, but it lost 1 oxygen, so that's why it's carbonate, all right? So that's it. Now, we look on our periodic table for all this stuff. Sodium is 22.99 maybe? We around?
Yeah.
22.99. Carbon, we know, 12.01. And oxygen rounds up to 16.00. All right? Is everybody cool with that? Looking at that periodic table, yeah? Eventually, you'll memorize some of the more commonly used ones. All right, what do you think we do with the sodium? Do we leave it as 22.9?
Times 2.
Yeah, we just times it by 2. And then carbon is just 12.01. There's only 1 of them. And then oxygen, we're going to multiply that by 2 as well. All right, so we'll get 32.00 plus 12.01 plus, what is it, 45.98? Okay, and then we add them all up. $89 point what? 99?
Yeah.
Okay, 89.99 grams per mole of Na2CO2. That's its molecular mass, okay? And if you're looking for molecular mass, this is how you show the work for molecular mass. You actually write out the numbers and do basically what we did right there, okay? So that's finding molecular mass. Now, the next part of this problem is we have to figure out how many grams of sodium carbonate equals 0.75 moles of sodium carbonate. So now we have to actually do a conversion. So we start with what's given, which is 0.75 moles Na2CO2. CO2. All right. And think about it for a second. What's going to go on the bottom? What unit? Yep, moles. Good. And it's moles of Na2CO2. What's going to go on the top? What unit? We're looking for grams, right? Can we go from moles to grams? Yeah, now we can. We just learned that. That's what's down here. So grams are going to go on the top, all right? Na2CO2, all right? Moles in this chapter, moles always 1, right? It's 1 mole equals the number of grams, and we just calculated the number of grams, which was 89.99. Okay? What's going to cancel out? Moles. Moles cancels out, and now you just have to multiply across. And when you take into consider sig figs, the answer is 67 grams of Na2CO2. Because there's only 2 sig figs here. So our answer has to have 2 sig figs. All right, any questions with any of that? Setting that up. That was a big problem.